So I assume this is the one C.
You can go for it.
All right. All right. Let's settle down. Okay, so welcome to CS61A, the final lecture. Today we'll be going over the hardest part of the class. Just kidding. None of the material today will be on your final, so you guys can relax, but please try to pay attention. We'll try to go over some cool stuff today as pretty much like what do you expect next, what else you could do beyond the classroom. Both of these kind of apply to you if you are going to be a student here at this university. However, some of them are just very generic life advice type of stuff. And if you are no longer a student at this university, but you would still want to take these classes that I'm talking about, all the resources are typically online, just like they are for this class. So if you're interested, you can definitely take them wherever you are, technically, in the world. So let's begin. Okay, so again, we always have to begin with the announcements. So, final review session is tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. at HP Auditorium, which is 306 Soda. If you walk straight in through the regular entrance, instead of turning right to the elevator, you go left, and that's HP. The final exam, oh no, is next Thursday, which is in like 30 hours from now, or something like that. So please be ready for that. I mean, not 30 hours. 1 week and 30 hours from now. 1 week and 30 hours from now. Or something. Wait, actually, no, never mind. That doesn't make any sense. So in a weekish. So please be ready for that. We'll be sending out emails for the seating again. But other than that, you have an entire week to study. Next week's material will basically be review material. Yeah. Okay. Final information, which I delayed looking at, will be posted soon. It will be similar to the midterm information. There is a mock final exam in lecture on Monday, and then after that mock final exam, which is going to be similar to the final, but of course, lecture is only an hour, 20 minutes, so it's not going to be exactly the same, but it will hopefully give you some practice. And yeah. Final review, Gorilla section, will be on lecture Tuesday. During that section, we will review the mock final we just had, so we'll answer any questions that you guys have, and we'll also do a Gorilla-like section, similar to what we had before. And lastly, famous Professor John De Niro will be guest lecturing on Wednesday in his field of research, so please come and show him some support. I'm sure some of you actually watch his webcast, so if you want to see the face behind the webcast and the face behind the famous announcements, which I can't do, please come on Wednesday and show him some support. He's awesome. I've also done some research under him, and he's great. Yeah, the man in the webcast, in the flesh, so please show up. It'll be great. Okay, so what is CS61A? So I'm going to pass this off to Kevin.
We can just speak right here.
Yeah, we can speak right next to each other. We have a certain bond that other people will find uncomfortable.
All right, so what is CS61A? Well, it's a course about managing complexity. And in particular, we want to manage complexity through a couple different ways. We can try mastering abstraction. And we'll explore it through programming paradigms. Like, for example, we saw earlier in the class that we tried doing things such as functional abstraction in Python, data abstraction in Python, and then we found that we could extend and combine both of those with object-oriented programming. Then we moved on towards Scheme, and we saw that we could explore a field of study that is focused around functional programming, where we combine functions to do more powerful things than any one function alone. This class is also an introduction to programming, and it taught us a full understanding of Python fundamentals, and it combined multiple ideas and large projects. Like for those of you who are still working on or just finished the Scheme project, I think you have a lot to be proud of because you've just written an entire interpreter for an entire language. It's kind of mind-blowing. And like we've written several games like Ants and Hog. And we've also written some more data science type applications like the Maps project, where we could try to find patterns in data that just, if you just look at the data by yourself, you wouldn't normally find. But with the help of machine learning and artificial intelligence techniques, we can find more interesting data. We also learned that how computers interpret programming languages. So this is something that's pretty special to the field of computer science as opposed to data science or other fields, where we're interested in not only how do you program, but how do computers program? How do computers work? How do we think like a computer? This is also a challenging course that will demand a lot from you. And I think what's really important is that you've taken a lot from this course. You realize a lot about yourself that you couldn't have done 2 months ago even. So I hope that you've discovered a lot about yourself and what you can do and what you can achieve in 2 months' time. So I think you have a lot to be proud of. All right, so just to mention the course overview again. Every week of this class, we covered a different set of topics. The first week, we talked about an introduction to Python. What are for loops? What's the environment look like? How does Python evaluate? The second week of class, we explored functional abstraction. We tried to define our own functions. And in doing so, that helped us essentially handle or master that complexity, the problem that all computer scientists face. In the third week, we covered data abstraction. We figured out how can we combine data in more interesting ways, how we can use lists, how we can use dictionaries to build structures that combine not only single numbers or single strings, but puts them together into one unified data type. Then we saw mutability, which allows us to change the data abstractions that we defined earlier. And combining all the ideas before, we explored objects, which take data and functions and combine them together. And most recently, we've been covering interpreters, which lets us explore the field of how do computers actually interpret programs? How do they understand them? And we pieced together all the parts. We saw that we took a parser that could then understand essentially break down what's essentially characters on your screen, turn them into something the computer can work with. And then we wrote the scheme interpreter, which then took that computer representation and made sense of it. And in the last couple weeks, we'll be exploring paradigms, such as, for example, this week we saw streams as one paradigm, and SQL, or declarative programming, as another paradigm. So these are completely different ways of thinking about programs that we haven't really seen before. And they're definitely challenging ideas. And the very last week, we only have one lecture for this, and John will be speaking about applications, and in particular, how you can use computers to interpret human languages, and not just computer languages. All right. And so I'll hand it off to Stan to talk about what's next.
Okay, so here is what's next. So like I said before, if you're a student here at Berkeley, you might want to take these classes later. But if you're not, their resources are all online, so feel free to look into them. So the next thing and the most natural progression from CS61A is CS61B. And 61B is our data structures and algorithms class. I wouldn't necessarily say it's algorithms, but it's more like very specific algorithms that are very useful in your day-to-day lives. I guess maybe if you work in a library, you need to sort all the books or something. But I don't know. But you learn very fundamental things. I can't tell you everything that I learned in 61B, but I use everything pretty much all the time. There are some things that I don't remember how to prove, but there are things facts that I just know, and they're kind of just intrinsic in my mind. So 61B is super useful, and you should definitely take it if you like coding. You'll have to code a lot. You might have noticed in this class, we gave you a lot of projects. They're all rather restricted. You work function to function. We give you the entire structure, and you kind of just answer. They're like kind of like homework questions. Do them one at a time, except for Scheme, I guess, which is everywhere. But in 61B, you actually have the freedom to do anything that you would like. They give you a goal, and you just go out there and you code it yourself, which is super awesome. 61B definitely changed the way I looked at how to code. It's going to be taught by Professor Paul Hofinger. If you're a student here, you would know he's rather notorious. If you're not, he is rather notorious for some specific reasons that I won't really talk about. But he is an awesome professor. Both me and Kevin have worked under him, and he's great. He's a little intimidating, but he's very soft in the center.
You gotta show the health board.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta show the health board. So maybe if you're new to this school, you haven't seen this Hilf board before, but let's show you it. Here's a secret link. All right. Let's see. What do you want to try first? Maybe. Oh.
I am Paul Hilfinger. If you have not heard of my reputation, ask your friends about me.
So most of these are quotes from 164, I think, which is a class that he's really well known for. He's really well known for making it really, really hard, but also really, really rewarding. I'll put a disclaimer.
I want you to know now, just keep this in mind while you're just staring in front of the terminal. This is what I'm doing. I intend for you to walk or crawl, as the case may be, out of this course with the firm and completely justified conviction that you can program anything.
Yeah, so that sounds like a 61B quote. Because now you have the freedom to figure out, how do I design the program? How do I put together all the parts? Because we gave you all the skeleton in CS61A, but in CS61B, we take that all away from you. Let's do some more. I like this. Let's go to it. I'm sure you're
looking forward to this with great joy.
Oh, where's a good one? Oh, the reason.
The reason I went into programming is, besides the fact that I couldn't get any girls, so,
Well, how about the real reason?
The reason I went into programming is that it's fun. And I hope that whatever trials we put you through, you will have fun this semester. Thank you. Well, that's you to figure out.
All right, so that's the Hilf board. Go home and have some fun with it.
Alright, so yeah, he's actually a super great guy, and he really cares a lot about his students. One of the stories I've heard is that it's online, I think maybe on Quora or something, or Reddit, that some student had problems debugging their 164 project at like 3 a.m. and they emailed him and he replied in like 5 minutes. At 3 a.m. If you email me at 3 a.m., I'll be asleep. So yeah. Okay. Let's move onwards. So, Data Science 8. So this is one of the new courses here at Berkeley. I guess it's not so new anymore. It's been around for a couple semesters. But here, in Data Science 8, you will learn less about Python. If you transition from 61A to Data 8, you will definitely find that the Python in the class is very easy for you to pick up because it's something that you've learned before already. But you'll learn other skills such as statistical analysis that may build a foundation for you if you want to get into stuff like AI and machine learning, deep machine learning, reinforcement learning, all this type of stuff. So if you're looking to take an intro stats class, maybe Data 8 might be fun for you in the future. It was created by the famous John De Niro. He will be teaching it in fall 2017, along with another professor, David Wagner, who is also, I believe, either in the CS department or like one of the adjacent departments. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's CS because I know he teaches certain classes. Data 8 is awesome. I have never taken it, but I know some of the TAs in the class, and they're super cool. Next are other EECS lower division courses. My favorite EECS lower division courses is CS70. So in this class, well, CS70 is my favorite, maybe not theirs, who are, I've been hearing a lot of distrust about CS70. I think you learn a lot of really fun math in CS70. I'm not really fond of the logic in the very beginning. It's just something that you have to learn. It's rather boring, but after that, you get to really cool things like RSA, like the Chinese remainder theorem, which is very applicable to computer security, which I'll talk about later. You learn about probability theory, which I hate, but again, it's very useful for machine learning. So you learn about all these really, not abstract things, but things that you wouldn't think are very CS. You'll learn about all these things in this discrete mathematics class. It's really fun. You learn how to count in that class, which is, I thought it was going to be super easy, but it was really hard. So, CS70. If you really hate coding, but you love the theory, CS70 and then CS170, which I'll talk about later. CS61C, maybe Kevin will be better at talking to you about this because I hate that class. It is the best lower div according to Kevin, but for me, I learned a lot in the class. I now know how a computer works, so a lot of the time you guys just, you're very good at abstracting away how your computer actually works. But after taking 61C, you will know how your computer actually works, and it's pretty cool. Like, your friends ask you, you've been at Berkeley for 1 year, take 61A and B, and someone asks you, how does your computer work? And you're like, I have no idea. But after taking 61C, you have a pretty good idea, and then you can also take CS152, which I believe Kevin has taken, or CS162, which is one of my favorite classes here, although it's a lot of work. So I think 152 is design?
Yeah, computer architecture.
Computer architecture, and 162 is operating systems, which is awesome. And then E16A and 16B, I really don't have too much to say about these classes because I'm kind of old, so I've never taken these classes. When I came here, they didn't exist. So I decided to take Math 54 and Math 110 instead. So I've never taken them. Professor Sahai, who is also slightly notorious in this university, and he says it's kind of like his baby. He's trying to get everyone to take these classes. From what I've heard from his comments, they would probably be extremely useful, but I don't have first-hand experience, so I can't tell you anything. But I hear some people don't like it. But I think that's true for every single class. So maybe you should give them a shot. If I was an undergrad and I had to take them again, instead of taking 54 and 16A, which is what some of you will be presented, I would probably take 16A and 16B because I trust that Professor Sahai knows what he's talking about. Okay, EECS upper division courses. So I'm going to give you a survey of all the courses that I like. Maybe Kevin can give you a survey of all the courses that he likes. But yeah. So one unpopular opinion that I say is that I really don't like CS188. It's kind of a fun course, but it's kind of like a very broad.
Click.
Okay. Click. Oh man. Okay. I guess we'll have to look at the CS courses. Should we look at the schedule? The schedules are more fun. I think.
The schedule is more fun. Do the schedule.
The schedule is more fun. Thanks. All right, you do this. Yeah. The schedule is more fun.
Yeah,
There's a lot of cool classes offered next semester, I believe, that I kind of wish I took.
You can talk about your professors.
Ooh, yes, David Wagner is teaching, of course. Okay, scroll down. All right. So I want to start with CS188. It's kind of a negative thing. I thought the class was fun, making Pac. In this class, you have Pac-Man, he kind of walks around, you try to get him to be really smart, how to eat the pellets, how to avoid the ghosts. The projects were really fun. They're very 61AS. You kind of fill them in at a time. We kind of make everything else go away other than the artificial intelligence that you're learning, so you really only code that up. And it's fun, but I wouldn't say I learned so much from it. Whereas in 189, which is, being taught by Sahai next semester, I believe that class will be incredibly difficult with him, but it's very rewarding. I was not able to take that class as an undergraduate here, but I have taken it in the summer pretty much on my own with my friends, and I think the concepts are extremely interesting, especially the applications you get to do. So you get to use Kaggle and you get to compete with your friends, and it's super awesome. Another one of my favorite classes is actually CS194-26, specifically 26, with Afros. It's a computational photography class. So some of the things that you would do is like create GIFs that transition between two faces. I think I did like a Trump and Clinton one, so they kind of merge between the two. I did it with other people. You learn about the math behind that and why it actually works. If you're like wearing glasses like me, it doesn't work very well because glasses are kind of discrete. So if you're halfway between having glasses and not having glasses, you just look weird. There's other things that you learn, such as like when you take your iPhone out and you take a panorama, how does the panorama actually get stitched together? It kind of works the same for Google Maps. When they send their truck down, how do they don't take a video of the world, I believe. I think they take a bunch of photos and then they somehow create this virtual environment with those photos that seems like you're there. And that's done in computational photography, where you do a lot of projection and all these things to make things look awesome. That's a very fun class. It was a lot of work for me, but not a lot of work for other people. So I would definitely take it. I think it's one of my favorite electives that you could take in this class. In this school. CS170, which is kind of what some people say is the backbone of computer science. It's actually the algorithms class offered in this university. It's my favorite upper division because I find it very interesting and very practical. After CS170, I've never had to study for any of my interviews. So if you're looking for a job, maybe CS170 is the class for you. It's incredibly difficult and it will make your interviews look incredibly easy. And I mentioned before, CS162, it's boring in lecture, but I've learned a lot doing the projects. You get to create your own operating system. It's not super nice because it's non-visual. which is kind of boring. But when you get into CS long enough, you're like, okay, whatever. This looks cool enough. You know, you see when you pass your autograder tests, you get like the satisfaction in this class. So when you do that in 162, you get extra satisfaction because sometimes you have no idea where things are going wrong. I think you guys maybe experienced this in the Scheme project. When some things go wrong, sometimes you have no idea what's happening, whereas in the previous project you kind of know where your code kind of messed up. And 162 is kind of everywhere, especially when you're like beneath the kernel. You'll get something called a kernel panic, and you'll have that like all the time, which sucks. You'll have no idea what's going on. But it's great. I think the class is great. I think I'm gonna let Kevin talk about his favorite classes. I talked about a couple that I think are particularly useful and interesting, but I think it's Kevin's turn.
Oh, I don't like upper division.
Kevin doesn't like upper division classes, so he's not gonna talk about them at all. Okay, let's move on back. Okay. Any questions about classes you want to take in the future, whether or not you are a student here? Yeah, what's up?
So other schools offer classes that are kind of like technically equivalent to like CS or if you were to take the classes at another school, would you be taking them?
So I believe the question was, if you go to another university and you take the equivalent of 61B and 61C, would you be able to transfer the credits? 61B typically is very transferable because it's more of a generic class that everywhere kind of has, although our curriculum, I believe, is pretty unique in the amount of work you have to do. so I've been told. I haven't taken 61B anywhere else with the equivalent, but I have taken it here. 61C, I've heard is harder to transfer, but you can. But from the students that are in this class with you, I think they told me that they took their equivalent of 61C, they got the transfer credits for this university, and they said they learned like the first 3 weeks or something. So it might still be worthwhile, even though you can get the transfer credits. Yeah. I don't know too much about other universities. Yes?
I saw on the list of classes a class called Cyber War. What?
Is it from Professor Doug Tigar? Sure, I think it is. I haven't taken that class before. This is the first time it's being offered, as far as I know, and it's one of the classes I want to take. I'm taking computer security. That class is super awesome. I didn't mention it because we were running a little long, but Cyber War, I believe, is actually, you learn about kind of issues that are going on in the world, and you also try to find bugs in real life companies, and then for every bug bounty, I think that's what it's called, you get, depending on the size, you get points in the class. So you get to make money in the class actually from other third-party companies, and then you go around looking for exploits, and then you let them know, and then you get a bug bounty, you get free money, you get free points. So it sounds like a really fun class. I don't know too much about it. Tiger is super cool. I think he's really into cryptography, which is why I really like CS70, which is part of CS70 which I really like. So I can't say that you can just take it right now. It's probably not the best course to take after 61A. But maybe after a year and a half, it'd be a good thing to do. A lot of these 194 classes, which I've talked about, they're kind of like grad level. You just go in, you read some papers, they'll talk about stuff, maybe they talk about their own research, and then they're like, implement this, and you go home and you do it. So it's not very handholdy at all. Yeah, they're just like, do this, and you're like, okay, and they're like, here's a research paper, and you're like, okay. And you read it, and you're like, I don't understand it. Then you read it a couple more times. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
What about quantum information science?
What? Quantum computing, CS 191? 191? Okay, so that's a great question. So a lot of things we told you in this class are going to be lies if you take quantum computing, I believe, because they kind of, I don't know too much about physics to tell you, but ideally, if you think in the world and you wanted to sort a list of n items, you would think you would actually have to look at all the n items, so at least it would take n time, right? But in the quantum world, apparently, because of how quantum mechanics works, you can do it in root n time. I don't really know why. My friends who are taking the class who are talking to me about it don't really know why. But for some reason, you don't have to touch every object. I don't know. Maybe it has to do with the fact that the qubits may or may not be there. I don't know enough to tell you about the class, but I was going to take it, but it conflicted with one of the classes I was going to take, which was Math 110 last semester. It seems really cool. Also, Professor Balderani, the professor, has that class, or like a public version of that class, up on edX. Is that the platform professors use? edX. You might be able to look into that if you're interested. I don't know enough physics, but to tell you about it. Okay, yeah, in the back.
Do you know anything about Data 100?
Data 100. So I believe that's also a new class. That's the data science class. What I know about it is that it's a equivalent of stats 134, which is probability theory in stats. So I assume you learn some probability theory with applications of actual data. That's all I can say. It's also a new kind of like, they're testing it out type of class.
I mean, my understanding of it is that I'm taking it next semester. My understanding is that it's like a little bit of databases, so like CS186, some SQL stuff like that we've been learning in this class, as well as like a mix of machine learning, CS189, but not as rigorous. So it's just like a mix between like databases and information as well as machine learning, but more on the application side of what you can do with it.
So applications of machine learning plus databases is what Kevin said. Okay.
So once you finish all the papers, averages, you just take the course that you're interested in.
Good question. So once you finish all the lower divs and you want to take upper divs, you just take the class you're interested in. Yes and no. Some upper divs have prereqs, but some of them aren't. Some of them have prereqs and some of them don't. Some of them that don't have prereqs, you should take prereqs for, and some of them who do have prereqs, like you would just ignore it. So like for CS189, they say 188 is prereq, but even the professor agrees that that's kind of useless, and so do some of the grad students. For like 176, it's probably a good idea to take 170 beforehand, but for other classes, like you can go the suggested route that you could take 168, which is networking, and then take operating systems, because operating system uses a little bit of networking, or you can go the other way around, which is what I did. I took 162 first. So the networking portion, I was just like, I have no idea what's going on, because they assume you already took the class. But then when you go into 168, you kind of have a pretty good foundation, at least for that first lecture, because you're like, I already learned all of this at 162. So yeah, you're kind of free to do whatever you want, but there are some things that you probably should do after others. And those are kind of questions you ask on course advice, if you don't already know. Yes, yeah, what's up?
Can you take any of these upper CS courses if you're not a CS major?
Yes, good question. So can you take the upper division CS courses if you're not CX or EECS, assume?
What does it commonly happen? Is it like something, do you even see anybody who's not enrolled?
I would say it's rare because of the enrollment policy. These classes get full rather quickly, and only CS majors are able to enroll phase 1, or EECS majors. So yes, you could get into the class. It's kind of shaky to get in because you don't have enrollment priority, and that's just because we're, I guess, a public university, so we have very large classes and not that much staff. But the professors try really hard to fill up the class. We try to fill up this class as much as possible, but eventually we can't break the fire code, so we can't enroll more than the students that are allowed to fit into this room. And the same for the other professors as well. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So those are some of the classes and some questions that I just answered. So the next thing you could do in this, while you're here, I guess, is you could become an academic intern. So I know you guys have been to lab. You will see your TAs there, but you'll also see another group of people who are the academic interns. I hope that they've been very, very helpful to you in office hours and in lab. And if you would like to give back to the class, please become an academic intern. If you're interested in teaching, please become an academic intern. Becoming an academic intern was exactly what I did after I finished this course. So again, I took this summer, some summers ago. The following fall, I became an academic intern. It was awesome. Well, I was a lab assistant. We changed the name, but technically I was an academic intern. I helped out in the lab. I helped out in office hours. And if you find teaching rewarding, please try it out. If you would like to become a TA or a tutor eventually, if you really like your TA, maybe you look up to them, you can become them, right? You can be them. Like, become an academic intern, see if you really like it. If you like it, come back for more. Yeah. So, become an academic intern. So, of course, you can develop greater mastery of the concepts. I probably learned more teaching this, or I didn't learn more teaching this class, but I picked up more stuff as I taught more and more, because honestly, when you take the final, I'm sure not all of you are going to understand everything, and that's just how every class works, right? You go into the final, not all of you are going to understand everything. So when you teach the concepts again, you definitely pick up on more stuff. I didn't understand streams the very first time around. Honestly, I'm not even sure if I understood recursion by the final as well as I do now. So you tend to understand things more as you revisit them, and teaching is a great way to revisit things. Yeah. This also has to do with kind of your own learning. As you teach and as you talk about things, you'll actually realize that either you understand what you're talking about, or you really just don't understand what you're talking about at all. So when you describe like these technical concepts, it really helps you learn again. So becoming an academic intern will maybe point to things that maybe you missed in the class that you thought you understood, but maybe you just missed. And that's completely normal because you're not going to be able to learn everything all the time. Okay. And like I said before, this is the first step in joining the course staff. When you're an academic intern, you kind of get experience as teaching, which is good if you want to become part of the course staff, but we also get to know you. And as we get to know you, you might be like, oh, you're awesome. And then you apply to be a tutor, and we might be like, oh, this academic intern was awesome. Maybe they would like to be a tutor, and we'll see how that goes. And then after that, maybe you'll become a teaching assistant, or maybe you'll even become the instructor eventually. Honestly, I'm not even sure how I got this job. So, I started out as a student. I somehow became an academic intern, which is not too difficult, you know. We need all the help we can get. And then somehow I became a tutor, and I'll talk about more of that later, and then became a TA, and then an instructor. And here I am today standing in front of you, blabbering on. So, become an academic intern. If you really like your TAs, maybe if you even look up to Kevin, or even me for some reason, maybe becoming an academic intern would be awesome. Yeah. This is the fall 2017 Piazza. If we're not releasing the slides, which we might not, it will link it on your actual Piazza to that. Oops, press the wrong button, of course. And the next is CSM. So you can become a computer science mentor. Some of you may be in the group mentoring sections with maybe 4 or 5 students. If you know Annie or Chen, maybe you're in their sections. So there are, of course, other tutors that are not here right now, but that type of group mentoring kind of spun out from this idea of computer science mentors, which is just not here during the summer, but they are during the semester, where they offer group tutoring sessions to 61A, B, and 70, I believe. So if you want to get more teaching experience, try CSM. I joined CSM the very first semester that it was created, I guess, as a club here in this university. It was awesome. I did it for 2 semesters for an entire year. I did it 1 semester while I was a tutor, so concurrently, I kind of did the same task for both, so it was kind of nice. And then when I was a TA, my first semester TA, I was also a senior mentor in CSM, and it was great. So it's kind of a really nice community. You get to know a lot of people. Kevin actually knows like a ton of people just from CSM, and you tend to run into them when you're teaching because it's kind of the same community. So if you want more experience, try CSM. So here are some notes. You can lead small group mentoring sections, just like Annie and Yichen. Of course, they're not as big as discussion, but we want the small sections because we feel like it's more intimate instead of me talking to like 300, and then there might be your TA talking to 30, but then you'll have your tutor or your CSM mentor talking to 5. So you'll be able to ask more questions. Because I'm sure some of you just don't feel comfortable asking me questions in front of 300. Maybe some of you don't feel comfortable asking questions in front of 30 or 40 people. But in front of 5, hopefully you'll get familiar with them and you'll be comfortable just being yourself. I've heard stories about this summer, and I know some groups of students as well as their tutors/TAs are kind of pretty close, which is super awesome. I was really close with my TA, and I still talk to her when I took this class in the summer, like years ago. Okay, it also helps create the community you want to see. This is basically Kevin. I think he told you guys the story where he really liked 61A, but he also liked the community, the random people in Piazza to answer his questions, the core staff. This is your way to give back and keep fostering the community that we have here. And lastly, it kind of inspires others to pursue computer science. That's kind of my biggest thing I like about this. Computer science, it's kind of scary for a lot of people, especially if you come in with no background. You're like, do I belong here? Negative thoughts like that. And yes, you all belong here. You're all sitting here, so yes, of course, you belong here. We welcome everybody, and I think having a teaching community that also welcomes everyone is very important. If you had people, I guess, you see as your superiors, maybe your tutors, and they kind of talk down to you for some specific reason, or for no reason whatsoever, it doesn't really matter. We don't want to foster a community like that. Everyone can do computer science. We want everyone here to get into the major, or I do. I'm not sure about the university because we're kind of short on money. But I want all of you to get into the major. I want all of you to, I want all of you who want to get in the major to get into the major. If you don't want to, then of course, you don't have to. But I want you guys to pursue what you want to do, and CSM, I feel like, is a way that we foster this community, that everyone feels welcome, so they'll be able to continue the major. I've talked to many people who are like, yeah, if honestly, like 61A and 61B really wasn't so supportive, I probably would have dropped out of the major because it was so hard. Like, that's kind of the worst thing. You don't want that. You don't want to kind of cut someone's dreams because you were mean to them. You want people to just be able to pursue what they're interested in. And I believe Kevin wants to talk more about CSM, maybe?
You already talked. You're really good at this.
I don't think I'm very good at this, so I told Kevin that he should talk about this. But okay, let's move on. Okay, so learn about CSM. I believe it's, yeah, we'll post it online. Okay, beyond the password. Back to Kevin.
All right, so this is the part where I try to impart some wisdom, I think, even though I'm not that much older than you. All right. First of all, do things that interest you. Don't do things that don't interest you. And in particular, I really want you to try out things that might be outside of your comfort zone. So, for example, you've done CS61A this summer. Try some other things. Try your own projects. Try an internship. Or better yet, try something that isn't CS as well. Because that's life isn't all about classes or all about computer science. It's about other things as well. And I think like one of the nicest things about being here is that you have so many other majors and so many other people who are interested in those majors that you can talk to and get different ideas about. So especially here, I think we have like a burgeoning community of like data science as well as cognitive science that are oftentimes combined with computer science. So if you're interested in like how the brain works, how thinking machines work, you might also want to try cognitive science or combine it. Like for example, I'm a double major. I'm both computer science and cognitive science. So I think you should try that as well. Also thought about doing Chinese or Chicano studies, and that would be like CS to the fourth. Spend your time purposefully. So I think this is an especially important point as you either start your career or end your career in college and move on. You always want to spend your time purposefully. And this is something I feel like I didn't really understand until my second semester here, where I felt like I was really pushed. And I think having this experience in CS61 has pushed you. So I think you have kind of like a taste of how it is to like spend your time purposefully. Like making sure that every moment that you spend this summer counts, that you're making progress towards some improvement, some goal. I want you to remember that going forward. So actually, I think what's really nice is that you can use some kind of like calendar system to keep track of where your time goes. So I strongly encourage you to like remember that like your time is important. Like this time you have in college, or if you're just graduating college, the time you have moving forward, it just feels like you're like losing it. So you have to make sure that you spend it carefully. It also involves like how you spend that time, right? So like the people you spend that time with. I think that oftentimes defines the kind of person you are, the people who are around you. So I don't know, that sounds like something my mom would say, but I just want to like bring that home, that like make sure that you spend your time carefully, make sure you choose what you do, make sure you choose the right people to spend it with. And remember that ideas come from people, and people think from experience. So this is just kind of like a thought about the world in general, that people sometimes might disagree with you, that you might have different ideas about like what this should be or what that should be. I want you to like always take a step back, think about what the context is, where they might be coming from, empathize, be nice. I want you to remember that they have their own experience that guide the way that they think, just like you have your own experiences that tell you that this should be the way things ought to be. So just step back and remember that we all have these different experiences that motivate why we do certain things. And try to see things from their perspective. And don't compare. I think this is especially hard in Berkeley because as a student here, or at any other university really, you're in a place that is extremely competitive. That just kind of like getting into here or being in this class by nature inspires some kind of like just looking at the people around you type of thing, right? Like kind of see that, how do I measure up with other people in this class? I think that can be kind of dangerous. It can be good, of course, in that it'll push you to grow stronger and grow faster and do things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. But it can also be dangerous because you won't be able to see how much progress you've made. Because like I've been saying, these past 2 months, you've made so much progress. You've done so many things you couldn't have been able to done before. So I really want you to be able to like step back, like maybe after this lecture, think about all that you've achieved this summer in these two or so months. Make sure you put it in perspective. And lastly, give back to the world. So this is a great way to give back to the world is to become an academic intern or a computer science mentor. But there's many different ways you can give back. And that might involve things like, for example, you might want to try joining a nonprofit or doing something over summer that might give back to the world. There are a lot of research labs here that do work involving, like, for example, I think Sequoia works in Ken Goldberg's lab. And what Sequoia does is he researches how to provide water and resources to people who are in third world countries. So how do you model that? How do you do that? So there's different ways of giving back to the world. And I really want you to take advantage of your opportunities, whether you're a student here or not, to always think about how I can give back to the world. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean like I have to always work at a nonprofit the rest of my life, but it can mean smaller things as well, like making sure that like you're charitable to the people around you, that you're always making sure that you're helping people around you whenever you can, or that you're working on research projects that are beneficial to society. And there are also larger social issues, like how do we use computing? Is the data or the way that we're collecting that data, the way that we're using that data, is that ethical? So there are problems like that, and you can also take a class here at Berkeley called CS 195, Social Implications of Computing, to tell us more about how we can think about the way we're using computers and how that impacts society. All right, so I'd like to leave you with a little thanks for being amazing. First of all, let's thank all the course staff. And many more people. So that includes not just us instructors, but the TAs, tutors, academic interns who've all been great. And I also want to thank you for being such an amazing class. This is a picture we took on day one. So do you remember how you looked 2 months ago? Well, that's how you look. All right. Remember to complete your course evaluations and Q&A. If you want to do this, like, if you have a general question that you think would like be useful to everyone, let's talk about it now. Otherwise, you can kind of just filter up. Any general questions? You can ask us anything.
You can ask us anything.
Anything.
About our lives.
Yeah. Sorry, what's your name? And can you repeat your question?
Mustafa, like, what internships or job opportunities did you get, like, while you're at Berkeley or even after?
What internships or job opportunities did we get? Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So, as some of you may know, I'm going to be working at Salesforce with like a 95% probability after this class. 5% probability I may do something else if something else happens. And I got that from interning there. I also had an internship opportunity at Google, which I did not end up doing. Before that, I worked at Sony on their PlayStation. You wouldn't believe this, but they actually don't have tests for their PlayStation before. Everything was tested by hand. That's crazy. On like the PS4. So I don't know what happened for like the PS1, 2, and 3.
They just gotta hope that they pass the test.
Yeah, they're kind of like, yeah, hope this is gonna explode. So you get a lot of opportunities here. There are huge career fairs every semester where you can go, you can talk to people, you can kind of ask them what their company actually does, because honestly, you don't know every single company. So go there, see what you're interested in, and honestly, just having UC Berkeley is very helpful because at least you can go to the career fair. A lot of my friends in other universities can't go to career fairs and be like, oh, here's my resume to chat, and then like they just get some interview afterwards. They actually have to like cold email people. So just being here opens a lot of doors.
Yeah, and I think especially if you're taking CS61A now, and then if you take CS61B in the fall, I think that's like kind of like the perfect time to start applying for internships if you're interested. There are a lot of like internship programs that are designed for freshmen or sophomores if you're in that position, or even if you're older, like if you're a junior transfer, or if you're in a different position. There's oftentimes still lots of opportunities for people who are just kind of starting out, because a lot of companies in the Bay Area really want to capture the interest in computer science right now. So the career fairs, like the really hot stuff tends to happen early fall. So you might have to start applying like in the next couple months. Yeah, Ron.
Do you know anyone who has majored in both math and computer science? Yes, what are the challenges?
Math and computer science. Go for it.
Yeah, so one of my close friends in college, so he was my floor mate and then housemate for my entire duration here at Berkeley, is a double CS pure mathematics major. Disclaimer, he's super smart, but he'll be doing his PhD at Stanford after this summer. But his challenges, I guess, were trying to get into grad school. Maybe that may not apply to most of you, so you have to actually reach out to a lot of professors and read under them, because you can't really do research in mathematics, because one, as an undergrad, I believe he says that you just don't know enough. You need to know a lot of mathematics to do research in mathematics. Another thing is really the time crunch. I worked with him in CS162. That's a very project-heavy class, and it was really hard for him to make time for us to do things. But because we lived with each other, that was super easy. We could just do work at any time. But one of the hardest things, I think, is the time crunch. Other than that, the math classes that I've taken don't involve too much work per se compared to like 61A. It's like more conceptually difficult and not like workload difficult. I would say that it's very similar to 61B and A for me. 61A was more conceptually difficult. 61B was very workload difficult. So yes, be wary, but a lot of people do it, so you can definitely do it. You can also try applied mathematics. That has a larger overlap because you can have like a focus in computer science or something. So your classes overlap a lot more, so you can get through with less work and still learn basically everything, because applied mathematics and pure mathematics may differ in like 2 classes total, which is insignificant. Thank you.
Questions? Anything at all? Yeah.
Did you actually put the projects that you did at 61A on your resume when you were applying for anything?
So the question was, do we put projects that we did in 61A on our resume?
And B.
61A and B? So I don't think I did. I might have put one for 61B, but then now I have more interesting things to put on my resume. So I think for 61, I think if you have nothing else to put, it's a good idea. But I think you should try to like find like either research opportunities or build your own projects. So I think that shows like a lot more independence on your part. So try to do that. But barring that, you can always fall back on the projects you've done here.
Yeah, I also think it's my instructor when I moved class, I think it's rather controversial. You should not put it, but some people say you should. Like what Kevin said, I believe if you don't have anything else, you should put it on there. But ideally, you would choose 61B ones, so you kind of made all of those yourselves more, even though it was for a class. Whereas 61A is a lot more structured. You're kind of just filling in the code. So if you have nothing else to put, I think you should put it on. But maybe working on projects, maybe the 61B projects are more of your own. So I think those should be done instead of 61A. I think I had a 61B project on there as well, but I got rid of it eventually after I did more stuff.
Yeah, Martin.
This question for you. You said you were interested in education.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of steps did you take toward that direction to explore that?
Okay, so Martin's question was, I'm interested in education, me personally, and what kind of steps did I take to do that, to get to here, or?
Did you look at research opportunities regarding education?
So I guess I'll just tell you a little bit about my background. I have a similar background to Stan, where I took this class in spring 2015, so just a little over 2 years ago, and then I just became an academic intern in the fall, kind of like how Stan did, and then I've just been taking opportunities as they come. But I think the important thing is if you're interested in education or really any field at all, it's about having initiative. There are so many opportunities here, but they won't come find you. You have to reach out and find them yourselves. And that might involve like you don't have to like do stuff like email people or things like that. I never did any of that. What I did was I always just did a really good job at what I was, and going above and beyond what was asked of me, I think. So as an academic intern, I just worked a ton. Like I did like 20 hours a week of teaching as an academic intern, like volunteering 20 hours per week of teaching. Whereas like most people only do 3 hours a week. So I think you just have to do like a lot more and be recognized, because people will notice you when you do good work.
That is true. I remember Kevin.
Yeah, people will notice if you do good work.
Oh, there's also an education minor here that you could take. I think it's maybe 5 classes. I've looked into it, but I actually didn't go through with it because the class times are kind of weird. So I was like, okay, I don't want to wake up at this time. But that's not a good reason. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna end up doing some kind of like computing education research in the future for my master's program. But I think all of that kind of starts from just like putting in the time right now and in the future, and just finding something interesting that kind of grabs you, whether that's education or like whatever your field of interest is. And then just stick with it. Keep on going, keep on pushing. It might take you like a month, 2 months, a semester, 2 semesters before you get the reward. But if you keep on working hard and if you keep on putting yourself out there, you will be noticed. Questions? Yeah, Mustafa.
Have any of you guys ever made like apps that you actually put out for people to use and stuff? Like
Apps.
your own projects?
Have we written any apps? I don't have time to write apps, sorry.
I agree.
I just teach.
I
I just teach in all my free time.
Yeah, I kind of do this. This is my free time, and then the not free time is actually for the classes I told you about. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it is a trade-off. Like, I like putting my teaching stuff on my resume because I think that's what consumes my life. So as long as you have something that like consumes your life that isn't like wasteful, you can put that on your resume if that's like the interest. Yeah.
Don't put Netflix.
Basically. Yeah, Arya.
So, it's like essentially later on, a few months from now, I want to ask you guys about something. Is it okay to tell you guys?
Is it okay to email us in the future? I say it's fine for me. I might not necessarily respond to it like that moment like I do right now, but it might take us like maybe like a week to get back to you, but
Yeah, so
No
I
guarantees,
keep my
but-
inbox very organized, so it's very likely that I'll get back to you. But there's also a slight chance that I might not, but probably not right away, but eventually, yeah.
yeah. So we'll always try to respond.
And if
So you can always email us.
If you're sending it to me, maybe just send a picture of your face, because I'm very good at recognizing faces. Or name, I'm not gonna remember who you are. Yeah, just take a selfie, maybe attach that.
Questions? You can ask us anything. It doesn't have to be work or life related. Yeah.
This is actually pretty class related.
Okay.
While you're taking CS classes, I've just noticed personally it's very difficult to take notes per se,
Mhm.
like handwritten notes. Do you have any advice on how to organize your thoughts if you're going through a lecture if you're a student?
Okay, so Noah's question was, as a student, how do you organize your thoughts as you're going through a lecture if you can't take notes? Like, it's usually it's kind of hard to like keep up and take notes. My suggestion was like, kind of like what I said in the studying guide, which is just to like take notes either in advance, because we oftentimes post the lectures in advance. So take notes then, and then leave your questions for lecture and live lecture. So make sure you come up with questions and try to answer them as the lecturer is going through them. Because oftentimes we show like extra demos that might like help resolve those questions that you have. And I think probably the most important thing is just like to stay active in your learning here. So I actually never take notes basically ever for any classes, because I just always like the way I learn is this, I like focusing on the lecture and just thinking really intently about what they're saying. And then trying to think of like counterexamples, like why does that not work here? Or what is the situation where that would like break? And often just try to challenge your thought processes as they're going through the slides and try to predict what happens next. Does that address your question, or do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, I really like looking at the lecture slides before, but as you stray further away from this class, you're going to realize that your professors are not going to post the slides before, and maybe not even the day after. So that's awesome, but you're lucky if your friend just posts their slides at all. I really like what Kevin says. I don't like to take notes during class. I really like to just listen. I only take notes in classes that are math heavy. It can help me remember when I write stuff down. But normally when the classes are not extremely math heavy or math intensive, I really like to just listen, kind of like what Kevin says, absorb all the information, actively think, and just not take notes and rely on the slides later. Because if what you remember now, you can go back to the slides and you'll basically just kind of remember what the professor is saying. Again, I don't know if they'll release the slides beforehand, but if they do, you can definitely look at some. But you will count yourself lucky if they release slides at all. Yeah. Which is most of the CS professors here, they like to release their slides. Or their own handwritten notes. Some professors like, use this. They literally just write here, and then they like release it or something.
Yeah.
For your first internship or job opportunity, what did you have on your resume? Because I feel like when you're looking at the requirements, they usually look for previous work experience or just something that you can show them to show them competent in the field. So what did you guys have?
Okay, so the question was, what did we have on our resume when we were looking for our first internship or job opportunity?
All right, I had academic intern on there, I think. Probably a class tutor, maybe like CSM, senior mentor. I had like a 61B project, I think. Had UC Berkeley CS, expected graduation 2017. I really didn't have too much, so you really have to get out there. It would be nice if you contributed to some open source projects. People, when they see that you don't have really any work experience, they're gonna ask you kind of two things. Do you have any projects? That's kind of like a typical thing to ask. And can I see your GitHub? And I wasn't really good at that kind of stuff, but I still made it through. So yes, the qualifications look super scary. They're always like, oh, you need 4 years in C++, like a bachelor's in computer science or like some related field, and like a bunch of other stuff. Like, oh, you prefer if you know SQL, but not required, and like Java, all these random things. So you will learn Java, but the thing is, these qualifications always look very scary. My advice to you, when you see them online, they look scary. Just apply anyway. When you're in person, just apply anyways. Don't be afraid of rejection. If you really want to talk about that kind of stuff, you can come up to me. I can tell you all the internships I turned down, but also all the internships that turned me down. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a numbers game. Especially when you first go. Yes, they do like experience.
I have a follow-up question. How many internships did you apply for in your first round of application?
How many internships? I don't think that's a very good question because I'm really lazy, but at least in the double digits. Yeah. But ideally, more than that. Maybe not triple digits, but maybe not like 15, more like 30, maybe. I don't know. Some people say to apply to a lot. I also think that's probably the best thing to do. It doesn't take that much overhead, but you do it like the first 3 times for the next like 50.
Yeah, I also encourage you to think about research opportunities, and the best way is just usually to find the professor or the researcher in their office hours, or just join in a meeting and just ask them, hey, can I drop by? Can I listen in on your meeting? And just keep on attending them until you know all the systems. And at that point, they're like, hey, you seem useful. You know the stuff. Yeah.
It's more to expand, but did you do any cool cryptography stuff outside of school?
Do what stuff?
Cryptography.
I looked into it a little bit outside of CS70 and 161. I would have really liked to take this cyber warfare class, but I'm unable to do it. So if you're interested in it, definitely look into it. I think a very hip topic right now is blockchain technology. That's the buzzword. Blockchain technology. And all these bitcoins, or like Dogecoins, all these other coins that are going around. A lot of people really don't understand what's going on at all, but they still trade them. But at least I understand them. And you should probably look into that. It's pretty cool. There are a lot of articles on these topics because, one, they're really hip and new, kind of like, oh, the cloud, big data. This is where we are in the world, right? You just say these things and you sound very impressive. Blockchain technology is a very interesting topic because it doesn't revolve around a centralized bank. And I think that's what is cool about it. And reliable probabilities. Yeah. And other stuff. Does that answer your question? So not that much, but you could yourself.
All right, how about we call it a day, and then the rest of the questions you can come up front. Make sure you do your course evaluations. I think we're at like 60-something%.
Yeah, get to 95% so you can get the free point. We'll be over here. Thanks. It's been a great semester. Look.